Hello and welcome to the Pressing the Points podcast for Sunday, the 4th of December. I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Tecchio, and I'm joined by...
This is your friend Dak, as per usual, also known as Danny. Again, good to be back. I've got a pretty good sort of following from the first time around, so I'll hand it over to young Jeffrey.
Yep. Cheers, everybody. Get the alcohol. 1, 2,
Cheers,
3.
my friend.
Jeffrey,
It's
80s
Australia, for
arcade
God's sake.
kid.
Now we have to put the rated 18 thing on the YouTube channel. That's good.
Now I can put Coke in it and destroy the lovely JD.
Mm.
You want to press that?
Right.
No.
All right, so a few things I guess that we've had in, like as we brought up in the first one, we've had the I believe the bounty for the 10-minute challenge has been completed. I had
the controversy at the end.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you guys about that because I only looked it up like this afternoon before we did the podcast, and I probably didn't really follow it as much as probably you guys because I didn't have a chance in hell of being able to compete. But I did have a look through, and they said it's finalised, and it's showing that the person who won is someone called Jesse Burgers, someone I've actually personally not heard of.
Yeah,
in the community. So
JP Burgess, Burgers,
I
don't know. JP.
I know who that is.
Great player. Eighth in the world last time I checked. Could be
right
seventh
behind
if I just get a little bit lazy, which I have. So
because it says that it's closed, but it also said that it was submitted on the 30th. So is it like with Twin Galaxies? Is it like is it people that work at Twin Galaxies that verify the videos, or is there certain people that sort of watch it and then?
Jeff can talk about this one.
Yeah, I did see in the comments a bit. He wasn't hard-assing around.
No. So there's a couple of things. Firstly, the bounty system at Twin Galaxies is in beta. So the whole idea of the initial bounties, they were throwing a bit of money down. There's quite a few bounties there at $250, and there's 3 tiers. I think the second one's like 125 and 100 or something, or 75. I don't know. But there's a few bounties, but it's all about running it through the system. That the actual bounty ended a day early in the system. So I think Jace Hall came back and said, hey, look, no, the bounty's actually going to end when it says it ends, which is the end of the month.
Yeah.
But if, in the system, it ended a day early. So I don't even know if you could have submitted another performance. So that's one side of things. They're just ironing out the kinks in the bounty system. I think the bounty system so far has been very successful in drawing people in and having them play competitive games for like Amazon cash prizes.
Yeah.
The other side to the 10-minute Donkey Kong bounty, highest point score in the 10 minutes there was no real rules set around, I guess, when you could submit your score. Or your performance. And so there was a lot of us just sharing performances as we went, sharing tactics, trying to, just push
each other out the community.
And it was a great little community thing. But of course, you always have those people with the slightly more aggressive, competitive styles. And, JP happened to come in there right at the 11th hour and throw down a score that he'd obviously had there, sitting for 10 days. So he'd done it for 10 days. So this obviously, put a few people out of...
fairness, I think it was 9.
9 days. Oh, sorry. He sat on it for 9 days and then sandbagged on the last, day. How he knew it was not going to end automatically, I don't know. He didn't. I think he just put it down the second last day.
He might not. He might have been sitting on another... He might have been sitting on a better score that if someone beat that he could have submitted. But look, I know there's a lot of ways people can feel about this kind of thing, I like the back and forth, seeing people pass each other and whatnot. But at the end of the day, a competition is a competition, and the person with the highest score deserves to win.
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with someone sniping or sandbagging or whatever you want to call it at the end. It's not exactly fun, not in good spirits. But, I mean... It's a competition. At the end of the day, it's like you follow your favorite football team or something like that. I'm not touching on any of that, Dak. But you watch a footy game and one team is in front the whole way, and then in the last minute, someone kicks a lucky goal and the other team gets it. Just
And of course,
life.
in the back of my
It's a
mind,
bit different
I was
than that, like where it's like you're playing against each other though. Like with a game of footy, for example, like it's that game has to be very close the whole time. It has to be the last second. It's not like you can go from being 40 points down to winning the game.
Well, if
Like
he
at the last
if he
minute.
kicked the ball 9 days prior and it just stayed in the air the entire time,
Just keeps on looping around.
yeah, it's going around the Superman, like
Like boomerang, like
yeah.
anyway,
So
so there was conversation about trying to put in, like, the competitors were saying, hey, can we have like a 24-hour submission process where you have to submit your thing, even 48 hours, because, people are away for weekends or something, but some kind of time period that is within a day or so that the competition can be, I guess, more live, I guess would be the term. I don't think it's any fair. Like if he put that score up, the day he got it, I'm sure Ray Finkel would have been pushing a little bit harder. You know what I mean? To get to the next level, that kind of thing.
And these are probably things they didn't think about. Like you don't sort of think about these things transpiring, but
This is why it's in beta.
It seems like something they'll do again, but I think probably based on like that side of things, that it should be like has to be a live stream, not holding on to like a pre-recorded IMP file. That way, it keeps that sort of neck and neck side of things going.
Yeah, live streams aren't going to work. I know there's a lot of people that do not want to stream. They do not want their face on camera. They just want to submit an imp of their performance, that kind of thing, which is, I think that's absolutely fair. So there's another point you touched on is how does it get validated? So there's no more referees at TG. TG went, I don't know what year it was, but they went into the system called TGSAP, which I don't know what it means, but basically it's the community. Not only do they now create any game performance tracks, so Twin Galaxies don't actually create, or not that I'm aware of, they may do, create new game tracks. Like if you want to, there's a brand new arcade game that came out and you want a point track for it for the highest points or the fastest time, the community actually create those tracks. They vote on the tracks and sponsor them with points. Then they become live and then people compete and they use their Twin Galaxy points to submit scores to that. Then that goes into the TGSAP process, where the community then reviews the performance, and there's certain criteria both holistically at TG and rule sets and stuff like no excessive leeching or that kind of thing. But there's also in a track itself, when someone creates the track, they may want to overwrite that this track is the leech track for Donkey Kong. You can leech as much as you want anywhere, even that infinite leech, and that's a specific track that people can then submit to. It mightn't be very competitive, people might not like it, but someone can create that and it gets sponsored and it goes to it. So when people submit to the bounties, it's usually exactly the same system as TGSAP. They literally put their vote on yes or no. So for a arcade performance, usually that requires a full performance of the gameplay on video or captured, plus look at PCB, so they see it's an original PCB, right numbers, the right dip switch settings on the PCB, and usually if it's Donkey Kong, it's like a 4-way joystick restrictor has to be shown. As long as you've got those things, that validates it on arcade. If it's a main performance, the main imp file that gets generated has to be created in Wolfmain, which is a kind of like a specific one for competitive sort of gaming, I guess. Records an IMP file, which is a playback file of the game performance. You have to zip it into a little zip, which keeps the imp in its state that it was, the time it was created, and then that gets uploaded. And there's also a validation process that's supposed to happen on main performances where someone goes in with a little command line and goes, they have some validation process where they run it through and it spits out all the sort of technical data that, yes, it wasn't modified, it wasn't, using save states, it was run at 100% speed, all that kind of stuff. And then
just to interject quickly here, Jeff, as well, for people that aren't aware of what we're talking about when we talk about MAME and we talk about IMP files. So you guys probably have a better explanation than I do, just because I know that some people that listen to this wouldn't be aware of what we're talking about. So when we talk about MAME, we're talking about like emulation on the computer compared to like playing on original hardware. Correct. But an IMP file is a specific type of emulator that tracks every single movement and that can play through like a program. So,
It's not
so you
emulated,
can
it's
see
just
that it wasn't cut and
Yeah.
pasted and like stopped and started and save stated.
So
essentially,
an input records, an input file, the name of it, an INP, basically records all inputs and the memory state, and then it encrypts that so that it cannot be modified. So when you go to play it back, the checksum needs to match what it should be. The initial seed is set to what it starts at the beginning of the video game, and then the inputs will match every single time. So they can
And
take that small
also,
file and play it back.
the seeds as well is what people again might not understand. So with games that run on RNG, seed is essentially it picks a certain start point of the game, essentially, so how the initial
Random
RNG is
number.
going to
Yeah.
play out. So it doesn't. You can't sort of play the same sort of game twice, based on that sort of.
Well, the beautiful thing about that seed is once that seed is in the imp, it actually plays that game out. As long as all the inputs flow how you played it, it will play it one for one how that person played that file. So it'll be a perfect sort of replica of how someone played the game. So as long as that's matched with the right ROM set, it's validated. So sorry, I just want to interject one more thing. Sorry, just to close this off, then you can continue on. So I was talking about how the main validation process is supposed to work. If that gets through, people vote it and happens, someone can come along and then go, I dispute this now, press the dispute button, open dispute, because this was never main validated correctly, or it's got the wrong, settings on the main, dips, that kind of stuff. So people can then dispute a score and then get taken away again. So I don't know how that's going to work with the bounty if, for instance, if JP's score was, and I'm not saying it is, and it definitely isn't, but if it was dodgy and then someone disputed it after it's validated and it got thrown out, how are they going to take that Amazon voucher back? They're not.
Yeah.
They're probably
it still does say that it is in process. So just for anyone that knows, just a quick recap. So the 10-minute bounty challenge for Donkey Kong was essentially from the very first point that you have action of Jumpman or Mario. That was when the 10-minute point started, and then no,
it started at the first frame of the first girder on level 1.
It starts at the girder finger.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to the points, but it's 10 minutes from then. Yes, they picked that very point for a particular
girder finger was actually my nickname in high school.
Yeah.
Classic. So as it stands right now, so there was JP. They got 131,300. The verification which is still in process. Right behind him is our friend Barrow from New Zealand. We've got Matt here, who's got 127,900. But again, that verification method still says in process. So that just means not enough people have watched it and voted on it. And then so that's your top 4. But I guess depending on what happens with the verification, that could potentially turn into the top 3. That could be slightly different. Yeah. Any final thoughts on that before we look at something in a different category?
No, we'll see what else comes. My final thought is they put out a bounty for $5,000 for someone to get 1.3 million on Donkey Kong, which in itself is absurd, but I don't think they understand that.
Give me a sec, boys.
Maybe if you want to offer, I don't know, 200,000 might be worthwhile for the amount of time you need to put in. Like, I would literally need to quit my job. 200,000 would not be enough. I'd have to spend 2 years doing nothing but playing.
Basically, it comes down to Twin Galaxies.
Perfect RNG the whole time, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Twin Galaxies don't understand the effort and the time it would take to get a player to the level where they can get 1.3 in. Like, Matt's not at that level yet. How long's he been doing it, and how good is he?
I will never be at that
level.
You know
what I mean? And Justin's the only one right now that's active, that's kind of pushing that boundary. But he just wants a world record. It doesn't matter if it's 1.3. So it's actually quite absurd, that bounty. But hey, it's there, and
it's there, and if Everest is there, people might climb it, and that's the point, right? Is to try and encourage people to play these games to new heights. I think we talked way too long about that.
We did.
Yeah. And just to get some reference.
That's 10 minutes challenge over half an hour or something right there.
And just so everyone's got a bit of clarity, so the current world record as it stands on DonkeyKongForum.net, I had DonkeyKongForum.com saved as my favourites, and you can still make an offer.
60 grand.
is 1,272,700 held by John McCurdy, which is, again, that's pushing the game almost to its limit. So, yeah, 1.3 is a big ask.
And I have to say it's the world record is actually 100 points more than that.
Yeah, depending on who you ask.